The day Jason left me and 30 pounds of cat food behind, braving the heavy rain to deliver milk tea to his junior sister. I held our cat and left the home we had shared for 7 years. A good brother asked him when he would come to pick me up and take me home. He smiled and said, "Lily has been with me for 7 years. At her age, who else would want her besides me?" Yes, at her age, she should find someone to marry and settle down. Half a year later, Jason regretted it and used the excuse of looking for the cat to ask me to get back together. I pointed to the man holding the cat and said, "Don't shout randomly, he's actually Andy's real dad." The big fat orange cat that Jason and I adopted together already weighs 12 pounds. It eats a lot of cat food every day. For convenience, I always buy 30 pounds of cat food at a time. Jason always scolds me for spoiling our fur baby too much, while resignedly carrying 30 pounds of cat food upstairs. But now, in the pouring rain outside, Jason has left me and the 30 pounds of cat food at the bus stop. "Lily, you should take a taxi home yourself." Sophie made a bet with her colleagues to buy milk tea for everyone within half an hour. "You know, she doesn't know anyone else here except me." Saying that, Jason pushed me out of the car and took the 30 pounds of cat food out of the trunk. Because of the rain, my hand slipped, and the heavy cat food suddenly fell heavily at my feet. My toe was hit by the cat food, and the pain brought tears to my eyes. Jason seemed not to notice and muttered, "Sophie has rhinitis and can't smell the cat food. You might as well take the cat food back with you." Jason hit the gas, and the splashes from the SUV drenched me all over. On a stormy day, it was impossible to get a ride outside. When Jason pushed me out of the car, my coat was left inside. The splashes from the car soaked me completely. I could only curl up at the bus stop, waiting for a bus that might come at any unknown time. By the time I got home, it was already 11 at night. Andy was meowing hungrily, circling around my feet. Ignoring my burning fever, I dizzily carried the 30 pounds of cat food into the house. After pouring cat food for Andy, I completely collapsed on the sofa. When I woke up again, it was pitch dark outside. I checked my phone, it was already 4 in the morning. Jason hadn't come back. Suddenly, my phone received a video. In the video, Jason was carrying 2 large bags of milk tea, and a cute, charming girl happily threw herself into his arms in surprise. Jason had both hands full of milk tea and couldn't hug the girl, so he lowered his head and tenderly kissed the top of her head. A crowd nearby cheered, "Be together! Be together!" How ridiculous. Everyone in the company knew that Jason was my boyfriend of 7 years. And that girl was my half-sister, Sophie. As if guided by some supernatural force, I clicked on Sophie's Facebook. Sure enough, in her latest post, I saw Jason's profile. The man smiled gently, tenderly picking out Sophie's favorite caramel macchiato from a pile of milk teas. Sophie's words were full of bragging and provocation. The feeling of rising from behind is truly wonderful. It turns out, the thief's genes really do get passed down. Sophie's mother once snatched my dad from my mom. Now, Sophie has taken Jason away from me. But then again, what kind of good man can be easily stolen away? I struggled to get up from the sofa and rummaged through the drawer for cold medicine. Suddenly, next to the medicine, I found a ring box engraved with the D family logo. Opening the box, inside lay a men's wedding ring quietly resting. At that moment, I hated my sharp intuition more than anything. Because my gut told me this ring must be hiding the proof of Jason's betrayal. My fingertips touched the English letters engraved on the inside of the ring. I flipped the ring open, and inside were the initials of Jason and Sophie. A sudden wave of nausea overwhelmed me, and I couldn't help but vomit violently. "Jason, how dare you? You know very well how much I want a pair of unique wedding rings that belong only to us." I've mentioned it to Jason several times, and each time he said he would take me to customize them when we get married. And now, behind my back, you actually gave this uniqueness to another woman. I clutched the ring box tightly, gasping for breath, my heart aching as if it was about to break. In a daze, I heard the sound of the door lock being opened. Jason walked in with a box of cold soup dumplings, a smile on his lips. But the moment he saw my disheveled state, he froze. "Lily. What's wrong?" Jason hurried over, trying to lift me off the floor. I mustered all my strength and pushed his hand away fiercely. "Don't touch me. Dirty." "Lily, what do you mean?" Jason looked at me with an angry expression. I chuckled softly and slapped the screenshot of Sophie's Facebook in front of him. "So, this is why you left me and 30 pounds of cat food at the bus stop on a rainy day?" Seeing Sophie's blatant provocation, a flicker of discomfort crossed Jason's face, then he angrily scolded me, "Lily, can't you be more generous and not so petty? I already said, I'm taking care of Sophie only because she's your sister, and she has no one here but us." I looked up, staring at him without blinking. Jason argued with a righteous air, but gradually grew uneasy and sullenly apologized to me. "It was wrong of me to leave you at the bus stop last night, making you carry 30 kilos of cat food and go home alone. I apologize. But can you please stop always targeting Sophie? She's still just a child." I interrupted him. "I remember telling you, Sophie is only 3 months younger than me. Back then, her mother interfered in my parents' marriage. My parents divorced because Sophie's mother, heavily pregnant, came to my house to force the issue, which caused me to be born prematurely." Jason paused, and the corner of his eye suddenly glanced at the ring box in my hand. His expression instantly turned angry. I said, "Why are you being so suspicious again?" "So it's because you saw this ring." I placed the ring box on the coffee table and looked at him steadily. "Aren't you going to explain?" Jason scowled, saying there was nothing much to explain. "I already said, Sophie is still a child. She was just being playful and insisted on dragging me to buy this ring. That day, she had just broken up." I scoffed. "So, on the night of our 7th anniversary, when you said you were working overtime at the company, you were actually out shopping for a ring with Sophie?" Jason's face flushed red and then pale, unable to utter a single word in response to my accusation. "I don't want to drag this out any longer. Jason, let's break up." Jason looked at me with a puzzled expression. "Lily, just because I got a little closer to your sister, you want to give up on our 7 years together? Was it just a little closeness?" Ever since Sophie applied to SIA Corporation a year ago, Jason's heart has gradually shifted towards her. Sophie cried, saying she was being bullied at work, so Jason fired the company's top salesperson and promoted Sophie to assistant general manager. Sophie was followed by a pervert while renting a house, and Jason raced over in the middle of the night to rescue her, taking her to our newly renovated marital home. Sophie coquettishly said she was tired of eating takeout every day and missed the taste of her hometown cuisine. Jason specially arranged a business trip to her hometown and, posing as her ambiguous partner, attended Sophie's family dinner. He had already forgotten that Sophie's hometown was also my hometown. And I, to support his career, hadn't been home for 5 years. I numbly counted the things Jason had done for Sophie over the past year. Jason's breathing grew rapid. At the end, he suddenly grabbed the ashtray and with a bang, smashed the glass coffee table. Shards of glass scattered all over the floor, and a sharp piece grazed my calf, causing a sharp pain. Blood quickly flowed down my leg. Jason's expression changed, and he was about to come over to hold me. Suddenly, his phone rang with a ringtone specially recorded by Sophie for him. "Brother Jason, pick up the phone, quickly answer baby's call." Jason paused in his steps, hesitated for a moment, then quickly answered the call. Sophie's sobbing voice came through the phone, "Brother Jason, what should I do? I accidentally broke the wedding photo of you and sister just now." Jason's face changed, he glanced at me guiltily, then nervously warned Sophie, "There's broken glass all over the floor, it's easy to get hurt. Stand still, don't move, I'm coming right away." After speaking, he said to me apologetically, "Sophie kindly helped us clean the bridal room and accidentally broke the wedding photo frame. She didn't know how to handle it, so I'm going over there for a moment. Also, about the wedding photo, please don't mind it. I'll have the shop reorder the frame later." "No need." I interrupted him with a face full of exhaustion. Anyway, it's no longer necessary. Jason's face darkened. What do you mean? I was just about to say I'm going back to my hometown tomorrow. The wedding is cancelled. Jason's phone rang desperately again. On the other end of the phone, Sophie was crying heart-wrenchingly. Brother Jason, I cut my hand, sob sob sob, it's bleeding a lot, I'm so scared. Jason hurriedly comforted me, don't be afraid. Press on the wound, I'll be right there. After saying that, he didn't even look at me and rushed out, slamming the door behind him. I crouched down, calmly took out the first aid kit, treated the wound simply, and then started packing. Actually, there wasn't much to pack. Back then, Jason was kicked out of his home by his parents for being with me. Over the years, to support his startup, I spent every penny I earned on Jason. I wore 9 yuan night market t-shirts, but bought Jason designer suits. Expensive ingredients for various soups in the kitchen, hand-ground coffee, regularly replaced fresh flowers. I did everything I could to make Jason's life as good as it used to be. But Jason's parents still looked down on me. Jason's mother despised my mother for being a disgraced woman from a wealthy family, unworthy of respect. She looked down on me for being abandoned by my biological father and even changing my surname. The last time Jason and I argued was when our families were discussing the marriage. Jason's mother looked at Sophie regretfully and said to Jason, if you had been with Sophie back then, your father and I would have long agreed to this marriage. Carrying a small suitcase I had packed and holding Andy, I turned around and took one last look at the rented house where I had lived for 7 years. Jason, goodbye. Never to see you again. After 3 hours on the high-speed train and 2 transfers on buses, I finally arrived at my grandmother's house. It was evening when I got home, smoke curled from the village chimneys, and every household was busy preparing dinner. Mom and Grandma had already prepared sweet potato porridge and wild vegetable buns. When they saw me come back, they hurriedly wanted to open the fridge to cook meat for me. I quickly held back Mom and Grandma, smiling and said, I'm tired of eating meat outside, I just want to eat Grandma's wild vegetable buns. Seeing me come back all alone, still carrying the cat, my mom looked at me hesitantly, wanting to say something but ultimately said nothing. At night, I was playing with Andy in the room when my mom knocked and came in. Lily, did you have a fight with Jason? I nodded, yes, we broke up. Is it because Mom has been a burden to you? Mom looked at me cautiously. My nose tingled, and I tightly hugged Mom's frail body. Mom and Dad started from nothing. Back then, to support Dad's business, Mom worked herself into illness. In the bitter cold winter, she even went to the river to dig lotus roots, saving money for Dad to buy stock. Later, my dad made a fortune in business but ended up having an affair with his female secretary. When my mom was pregnant with me and close to giving birth, the secretary, who was also heavily pregnant, confronted my mom, which angered her so much that she went into premature labor, nearly costing both their lives. My mom couldn't tolerate even the slightest grievance. Just after her confinement period, she divorced my dad. After the divorce, my mom returned to her hometown, built a 3-story house, and took over a fruit orchard. The money she earned each year barely covered my university tuition. But Jason is different from me. The Xie family owns several department stores in the provincial capital, with assets worth at least $1 billion. Jason and I were together for 7 years, but he rarely took me home because his parents always thought Jason was just infatuated with me and was only playing around. Once he got bored, he would follow his family's arrangement and marry a wealthy heiress of equal status. Now, Jason and I have broken up, and he has married Sophie. Jason's parents must be very happy, right? When they learned that I planned to stay in my hometown to help my mom manage the orchard, Grandma couldn't stop smiling. She was even arranging to find me a match. In recent years, the hometown has been developing new rural areas, and many young people have returned to start businesses. Lily, do you remember your elementary school classmate Daniel? He is now the college-educated village official in our village. And Anthony, who was in your middle school class, has contracted 2 hills in our village to grow Dendrobium officinale. I heard it's making a lot of money. Grandma has never been to a big city, she only heard from short videos that young people in big cities face a lot of pressure and don't eat well. She always worried that I wasn't doing well living in the city. Now that I've returned home, Grandma is the happiest. Only Mom has been watching me with concern, afraid I won't get used to life in the hometown. How could I not get used to it? The day after returning to the village, I slept in naturally. In the 7 years I was with Jason, I don't think I ever slept in. In my own home, I can sleep as long as I want. I don't have to get up at 6 every morning to make porridge for Jason because of his stomach problems. I don't have to endure his impatience and bad temper, repeatedly calling him to get up and eat breakfast. There are no endless reports or weekly summaries to finish back home. After breakfast, I went to the orchard to help my mom pick sugar tangerines, eating as I picked. My mom laughed, saying I was eating more than I was picking. Grandma said being able to eat well is a blessing and told me to eat more. Even Andy quickly adapted to rural life, running around the orchard with the village's tabby cat. When they heard I was back, Daniel organized a gathering, inviting a group of old classmates who had returned to start businesses, to welcome me home. In the farmhouse courtyard, a group of us young people made a cake with a rice cooker, and the pizza baked on the traditional stove looked quite decent. On the table were authentic free-range chickens, hard to find even in the city, and wild loaches and eels. Anthony, who grows Dendrobium officinale on the mountain, also brewed us a big pot of his homemade Dendrobium flower tea. Daniel asked me, "This time you're not leaving again, right?" I nodded, "Yeah. Not leaving. I plan to find something to do back home and spend time with my mom and grandma." Daniel suddenly got excited and, like a professional matchmaker, pushed me hard towards Anthony. "Anthony, haven't you always been lacking someone to handle your promotions? You should hire Lily. Lily used to work at a big internet company doing planning and promotion, right? She's definitely capable." Anthony smiled at me, "So? Old classmate, want to join my team?" The mountain Anthony manages is right behind my family's orchard. 5 social insurances and 1 housing fund, a monthly salary of $5,000, and during busy farming seasons, I can still take care of my family. I thought it over and nodded in agreement. The next day, Anthony took me to his farm. A few stilted bamboo huts hidden in the mountains served as the company's office and canteen. Anthony smiled and explained, "Stilted bamboo huts keep out snakes, insects, rats, and ants, and they're cool in the summer." I smiled and added for him, "Mainly because the bamboo in the mountains is cheap, building bamboo huts saves money." Anthony laughed heartily, showing no shame about the frugality and modesty of the early days of starting the business. I immediately grew fond of the new work environment. Sitting in the 2-story bamboo hut writing copy, I could look up and see the misty mountains and clouds, with the air filled with the fresh scent of bamboo leaves and flowers. While I was deeply focused on typing the copy, my phone suddenly rang. Unaware, I pressed the answer button. On the other end, Jason's voice suddenly came through. "Lily, where have you gone? Why is no one home? Andy is missing too." I was momentarily at a loss for words, and after a brief silence, kindly reminded him, "Jason, we have already broken up." Jason on the other end of the line exploded instantly, like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. "What breakup? I never agreed to it." I responded coldly, "We're just boyfriend and girlfriend, we haven't registered our marriage. If I unilaterally want to break up, it seems I don't need your consent, right?" Thinking back on the past year, I had urged Jason countless times to go with me to register our marriage certificate. Every time, Jason canceled with various excuses. I actually feel a bit grateful to him. If it weren't for Jason repeatedly postponing the registration, given how difficult divorce is now, with the need to grab a number and a 30-day cooling-off period. If Jason were determined to cling on, it would take me at least a year or 2 just to get the divorce finalized. On the other end of the phone, Jason was still babbling, "Anyway, I don't agree to break up, hurry back. Also, bring Andy back. Mrs. Xing from Tianquan Group is going to hold a birthday party for her cat. The invitation has already arrived here, requesting family members to bring their pets along // you bring Andy back now. first take him to the pet shop for a bath and a little grooming. I'll have the driver pick you up after work, / crazy. I quickly hung up the phone, then blocked and deleted him all at once. Just after hanging up, I turned around and found Anthony holding a teapot, standing behind me with an awkward expression. I felt a bit embarrassed and pretended to be calm as I explained, / an ex-boyfriend, still bothering me after breaking up. I've already blocked him, / Anthony sighed in relief / good that you broke up, / no, that's not what I meant. What I meant was, tonight we plan to throw a housewarming party for you. If you go to the banquet with your ex, the housewarming will have to be postponed, / no need to postpone, let's do it tonight, / After work, I was preparing skewers with new colleagues when my phone suddenly rang. My hands were full of a big bunch of lamb, so I couldn't answer it myself and had to call for backup. / who's free? Please help me answer the phone, / Anthony helped me press the call button, and I instinctively asked, may I ask who this is? There was a brief silence on the other end, then suddenly Jason's angry and flustered voice came through, who are you? Why is my girlfriend's phone in your hands? Let Lily answer the phone. I was about to snap back, but Anthony took the phone away. So you're that freeloading ex-boyfriend? Lily is with me. I pay her social insurance and housing fund every month, give her a salary of 5,000 yuan, double pay at the end of the year, and overtime pay on top of that. What about you? Have you ever paid her social insurance and housing fund? How much salary do you pay her every month? Heavy breathing came from the other end. Jason was so angry he couldn't speak. However, Anthony's words unexpectedly reminded me. I snatched the phone and, facing the silent Jason, unleashed a furious tirade. I originally wanted to part on good terms with you. Those 7 years with you, I might as well have fed my youth to the dogs. Now I regret it. Jason, please transfer the social insurance and housing fund you owe me for those 7 years, plus the 10,000 yuan monthly salary, into my account. What salary? A live-in nanny. I've been with you for 7 years, serving you all year round without a day off. Every morning at 6, I get up to cook porridge for you. When you entertain guests outside at night, no matter how late it is, you can come home and have a hangover soup. Jason, go ask at the talent market, how much does a live-in nanny like me, who works all year round without a day off, earn per month? Jason angrily shouted on the phone, you are my girlfriend, not some damn live-in nanny. I sneered and retorted, let me ask you, which boyfriend would leave his girlfriend at a bus stop in a heavy rainstorm, making her carry 30 kilos of cat food alone and take the bus home? Jason was left speechless. Don't call me from a new phone again. Otherwise, I'll go downstairs at your company and hang a banner demanding my wages. If you don't mind being embarrassed, then go ahead and call me. I hung up the phone and casually blocked that number as well. At night, Anthony lit a bonfire in the yard. My new colleagues and I sat around it, eating barbecue and drinking beer. No matter how many times the phone in my bag rang, it eventually ran out of battery and shut down automatically. I thought my entanglement with Jason had come to an end. Tonight, I didn't show up with Andy. Someone as proud as Jason would never allow himself to bow to me. But unexpectedly, the next day, I woke up with a hangover and saw Jason's figure in the downstairs living room. On the coffee table were brand-name cigarettes, alcohol, and various supplements. Perhaps because the rumors in the village these days were too unpleasant, my mother's attitude toward Jason was surprisingly good. The implication was that I should give Jason another chance. After all, coming from a poor, remote hometown, with my current reputation, it really would be hard to find someone as well-born and outstanding as Jason. To get Jason and me to talk properly, my mother even took my grandmother out for a walk. In the living room, Jason and I each sat on a sofa, facing each other in silence. Jason seemed to have stayed up all night, his beard unshaven, and his tone was filled with exhaustion. Lily, about the cat food last time, it was my fault, I apologize to you. I've already made things clear with Sophie, and from now on, I will keep my distance from her. You and Andy, would you come back with me? Without you and Andy at home, I can't sleep at all at night by myself. I was slightly surprised. How come? Andy and I moved out, isn't that exactly to make room for Sophie? Oh, I was wrong. Sophie had long ago moved into your marital home. Once you and she finish the marriage, you can give up that house and move directly into the new one. Jason was silent for a moment, then questioned me with a tone full of reluctance. Lily, I admit, I did have a little affection for Sophie before. She's different from you. You are strong, like a towering tree that no storm can topple. Sophie is like a flower raised in a greenhouse since childhood, very delicate, unable to withstand even a little wind or rain. I admit, I was attracted to Sophie, but that was just a momentary impulse. Doesn't our 7 years of relationship outweigh this one mistake? It seemed he could no longer tolerate Sophie's delicacy and capriciousness. Jason began to nag and complain to me. He said Sophie had a very active nightlife, coming home later than him every night. She never remembered to leave a light on for him or prepare hangover tea and warm millet porridge to soothe his stomach. He said that Sophie sleeps in until late every day, never helps him prepare breakfast, and has caused him to be late for several morning meetings. Because he didn't have time to eat breakfast, the stomach that I have pampered for 7 years almost hurt so badly after the morning meeting that he nearly fainted. He also said that when he took Sophie to Mrs. Shing's beloved cat's birthday party, the teddy dog Sophie rented at the last minute actually bit Mrs. Shing's beloved cat. Lily, I was wrong. I've really had enough of Sophie's stupidity and ignorance. Come back, let's go get our marriage certificate once you return, okay? I shook my head. No, I don't like second-hand goods, and second-hand men are the same. Jason, you and Sophie have already slept together, haven't you? Jason's pupils contracted, his expression instantly turning fierce. Did Sophie tell you that? I opened my phone and searched for the bank card transaction record from the night I left the rental apartment. At 10:03 p.m., a bank card accidentally linked to Jason's phone was used on an online medicine platform to purchase a box of morning-after pills. The delivery address was none other than the marital home Jason and I had. I looked at him coldly. Jason, were you really that impatient? In the wedding home I personally decorated, you didn't even have time to buy a condom before jumping into bed like dry wood catching fire? And you even used my bank card to buy morning-after pills for Sophie? Jason, you're truly disgusting. Jason finally left. My life gradually returned to calm. In the blink of an eye, the orchard at home was ripe for harvest. Anthony came with his colleagues from work to help pick oranges at my place. During the conversation, his colleagues teased him to hurry up and win me over. I blushed and told them to stop joking. Unexpectedly, in the evening, Anthony actually picked a big bunch of golden wild chrysanthemums and ran up to me. Lily, be my girlfriend. I smiled bitterly and asked him, aren't you afraid the rumors are true? That I was kept by a rich man in the big city, had several abortions, and can no longer have children? Anthony grinned. Those ants never say a word of truth. If you don't believe me, ask the young people in our company, who hasn't been gossiped about behind their backs by them. They even say I came back to my hometown to take over the family business and recover from a mental illness caused by the pressure in the big city. My colleague Xiaogua also complained. My college roommate came over during her annual leave to visit me and stayed overnight in the dorm. The next day, the whole village was talking, saying I liked men and even brought a man back to sleep in the dorm. My colleague Xiaogua is 1.8 meters tall, a real man. I chuckled and took the wild chrysanthemums from Anthony's hand. Who gives chrysanthemums when courting a girl? Anthony scratched his head. Wild chrysanthemums are great, golden and bright, just looking at them lifts your mood. If you get tired of looking at them, you can pick the flowers and dry them into chrysanthemum tea to cool down and relieve heat. Anthony is truly a man who knows how to live well. Unlike Jason, who is arrogant, as my grandmother says, Anthony is someone who sees the value in life. I noticed that when my mom cooks, she always bends over to chop vegetables. The next day, he brought over dozens of bricks and a bag of cement to help raise the kitchen countertop for my mom. When my mom invited him over for a meal, he was always restless, either chopping firewood in the yard or cleaning the pig pen and chicken coop. The most extreme time was on a rainy day when I accidentally slipped in the yard. The next day, Anthony had someone lay down several anti-slip red brick paths in our yard. A month later, Anthony and I registered our marriage. It turns out, the person who truly loves you won't make you wait 7 years and hesitate to register your marriage. On the day we got our marriage certificate, Anthony came knocking at my door before dawn. My mom, yawning, said she wanted to make us 2 bowls of sweet egg soup. Anthony gently declined. "Mom, I got the very first appointment today. We should go early to avoid missing our turn." When my mom heard this, she smiled so broadly her eyes nearly closed. The first appointment? Wonderful, a lifetime, a good omen. Coming out of the marriage registration office, looking at the bright red wedding photo, I suddenly felt a wave of realization. Getting married just like that? The long 7-year journey had always made me think that marriage was something very difficult. But today, just now, I suddenly realized that getting married is not difficult at all. We brought our ID cards, signed, took photos, and got the stamp. The registration office didn't charge a penny, and they even gave me a rose. Holding the wedding photo, Anthony took dozens of pictures in one go, and finally picked the best one to send to me. "Wifey, official announcement photo. You should post it on Facebook too?" Anthony looked at me eagerly. It was as if 3 words were carved on his face: "Want a title?" Looking at the freshly minted wedding photo, I thought, Jason and I really have become the past. I clicked send. From today, I am also a married person. The next second, an overwhelming flood of blessings appeared in my comment section. Some friends we had in common, unaware that Jason and I had broken up, saw the man leaning against me in the wedding photo was not Jason, and they all messaged me privately, asking what was going on. I had no intention of covering for Jason, so I truthfully sent over his ambiguous relationship with Sophie, along with those Facebook screenshots Sophie had posted to show off to me. Soon, I received a call from an unknown number. As expected, it was indeed Jason calling from someone else's phone. "Lily, I haven't agreed to break up with you. How dare you register your marriage with another man?" I smiled and kindly reminded him, "Jason, I've waited for you for 7 years. 365 days a year, 7 years is 2,555 days. I've given you over 2,000 chances. Every single day in these 7 years, as long as you were willing, you could have taken me to the Civil Affairs Bureau to register our marriage at any time. I only found out today that from taking a number to getting the certificate, it only takes 10 minutes. I spent 7 years waiting, but never got those 10 minutes. I'm really tired now, I don't want to wait anymore, sorry." After saying this, I hung up and blocked the number again. After registering the marriage, we returned to the village where both families had already set up the banquet. After a whole day of fuss, that night, lying on the big bed in the new room, I listened to the sound of someone showering coming from the bathroom. I suddenly became nervous. While the man hadn't come out yet, I quickly pulled out my phone and secretly searched for a few positions that were more girl-friendly. "What are you looking at?" Anthony's voice suddenly sounded above me. I quickly hid my phone under the covers, my ears burning red hot. Anthony seemed to suddenly understand something and looked at me in disbelief. 7 years together? You guys haven't done that?" Blushing, I shouted at him in frustration, "Exactly because we haven't done it, I want to learn now." Anthony chuckled, "I haven't done it either. Come on, take out your phone, let's learn together." 2 interns, stumbling and fumbling through their entire night of practice. Gritting their teeth in pain. Yet somehow, it was unusually harmonious. The next morning when I woke up, Anthony cheekily trapped me in his arms, pressing me to tell him what had really happened between Jason and me over the past few years. Going to a hotel with my girlfriend's sister, could I really resist touching my girlfriend for 7 years? He pestered me so much I couldn't take it, and I had to blush and tell him the reason. Actually, when Jason and I first moved in together, his mother privately approached me. She said the Xie family had strict rules and couldn't accept an unmarried woman living together or one with a loose private life. She also said the Xie family was a prestigious lineage that still upheld the tradition of checking the bride's chastity on the wedding night. Because of Jason's mother's mockery and scorn, I held my breath for 7 years, refusing to let Jason touch me no matter what. Originally, I thought that on the day I married Jason, his mother would finally realize that I was not an unchaste woman. Now that I think about it, I'm actually glad Jason's mother said so many harsh things to me back then. Jason really wasn't worth me giving my all. After we got married, life with Anthony didn't seem to change much. We went to work together and patrolled the mountains together. Since our houses were close, we didn't even need to cook for ourselves. Often, whichever family made something delicious, we'd go over there to eat. 2 months later, during the Mid-Autumn Festival, both families decided to celebrate together. Anthony specially drove to the county town to buy my favorite hairy crabs. That night, just as the steamed hairy crabs were placed on the table, I started vomiting uncontrollably. This year's hairy crabs were destined to be missed. Because I'm pregnant, and counting the dates, it turns out I conceived during our honeymoon. My mom couldn't stop smiling and the next day went to the town to catch over 100 little chicks. She said she'd raise them in our orchard so that when I'm resting after childbirth, she could slaughter them to make nourishing soup for me. Anthony was even more nervous, personally noting down every prenatal checkup appointment in his phone's memo. When the baby was 5 months old, Anthony couldn't wait to see what the child looked like. He insisted on taking me to a private hospital in the city for a 4D ultrasound. Unexpectedly, after the checkup, I ran into Jason on the road, someone I hadn't seen in a long time. He looked very different, his whole being radiating a deep exhaustion. Seeing me in maternity clothes with a prominent baby bump, Jason's lips trembled as he forced a smile more awkward than crying. "Lily, you already have a baby so soon?" I've always held grudges, so I sarcastically replied on the spot, "Yeah, if it weren't for someone wasting 7 years, my kid would already be in elementary school by now." Jason gave a bitter smile, "Those 7 years. I was the one who wronged you." Looking at his regretful and despondent appearance, I suddenly felt somewhat disinterested. "It's okay, it's all in the past." Unexpectedly, these few words suddenly made Jason excited. "There is no past. Lily, after you left, I bought the apartment where we lived for 7 years. The decoration and furnishings in the house are still the same as before. The flowers you nurtured are still alive, and I even bought a cat, exactly like Andy when he was little. I even kicked Sophie out of our marital home. Lily, after you left, I realized what I had truly missed all these years. I really am a jerk. If I could do it all over again, I definitely would." I raised my hand to interrupt his incoherent confession. "Jason, life is not a novel, there aren't so many chances to be reborn and start over. The past is the past, I've already married, and I'm about to have a baby. You should look forward to." My indifferent tone was like a sharp dagger, cutting deep to the bone. Jason's face gradually turned pale inch by inch. Suddenly, a light rain began to fall from the sky. Before I could react, a large umbrella appeared above my head. This umbrella was so big, it was like a mobile little tent. Every passerby couldn't help but look again and again. Anthony proudly showed off to me like presenting a treasure. "Wife, this is a specially customized parent-child umbrella for you and the baby. The umbrellas sold outside are all too small. I thought that when you hold the child, if the umbrella is too small, it would cover the child but not you, so I simply had someone custom make a big umbrella. Wife, don't worry. With me here, neither you nor the baby will get caught in the rain." Anthony's words hit Jason like a heavy punch, striking him hard on the spot. At that moment, he suddenly remembered that stormy night. That night, if he hadn't suddenly lost his mind and, in order to deliver milk tea to Sophie, left Lily and 30 pounds of cat food out in the pouring rain. Could it be that now Lily is already his wife? Would he, like Anthony, stand openly and proudly by Lily's side, protecting her and their child? Instead of like now, only able to watch helplessly as his Lily, the Lily who once belonged only to him, carries another man's child, tightly sheltered under another man's umbrella. If only time could go back to the past. On that stormy night, he would have undoubtedly rushed to Lily without hesitation. The next time I heard news of Jason was when the lawyer hired by the Xie family found me. He said Jason was sentenced to 7 years in prison for an arson case. After the verdict was delivered, Jason entrusted the lawyer to transfer the house we used to live in, as well as over $1 million in cash from his account, all to my name. The lawyer conveyed Jason's words, "The house is a gift for the baby's first meeting." The over $1 million in cash, in Jason's words, is to make up for the wages, bonuses, and social insurance benefits of the past 7 years. Why did Jason set the fire and hurt people? Who did he hurt? The lawyer found the online post and sent it to my phone. Only then did I realize that after I left, Jason, in a fit of anger, actually got together with Sophie. But soon, because of personality clashes, he and Sophie argued all the time. Sophie was a social butterfly, still dating many high-quality second-generation rich kids outside. Every time they fought, she would go on dates with other men for a few days, leaving Jason hanging. Jason wanted to break up with Sophie, but Sophie had my dad and stepmom backing her up. Their families were well matched, and they actually started talking about marriage. The night before they were supposed to register their marriage, Jason caught Sophie with 2 lovers at a hotel. Furious, Jason stormed to the He family, demanding to call off the engagement. But my dad advised him that this was common in wealthy marriages. At worst, after marriage, he and Sophie could just live separate lives. My dad was determined to find a good family for Sophie. He looked down on the poor suitors around her and stubbornly refused to let go of Jason, the unlucky fool. When Jason went to see Sophie, he unexpectedly overheard her telling my stepmom that she intended to hold on to Jason tightly, so he would never have a chance to come back to me. Inside the flower room, Sophie's terrifying expression made Jason see the true face of this woman clearly. That night, Jason carried a large bucket of gasoline and set fire to the He family's villa. I heard that when my cheap father jumped off the building to escape, he broke both legs. The stepmother didn't dare to jump and was trapped in the master bedroom on the 3rd floor. By the time she was rescued, she was already dead. Sophie suffered severe burns all over her body, and her face was so badly burned that there wasn't a single patch of good skin left. She was completely disfigured. After the incident, Jason's parents almost knelt before the He family, begging them to sign a letter of forgiveness. But the He family said they would never sign unless Jason immediately married Sophie. This time, Jason would rather go to prison than marry Sophie. Later, I heard that Jason's parents found a way to get a hospital diagnosis for Jason, claiming he had schizophrenia. Jason was sent to a psychiatric hospital, and I never heard from him again. In the new year, the dendrobium on the mountain bloomed, and the first batch of fruit in the orchard ripened. I was playing with Andy in the yard, accompanied by my child. In the kitchen, Anthony was using the crucian carp caught last night to make cat food for Andy. Rural cats rarely eat commercial cat food. However, it seems that Andy has completely fallen in love with Anthony's homemade cat food. That's wonderful. I no longer have to carry 30 pounds of cat food home by myself.